In Chapter 1, Harry Dresden meets Kim Delaney at McAnally's pub. Kim asks him for help deciphering a complex magical summoning circle, claiming it's for academic interest. Harry refuses, warning her it's too dangerous and beyond her knowledge. Kim grows angry, believing Harry doubts her strength, and storms out. Harry feels guilty for withholding the information, but knows revealing it would risk Kim's life. Afterward, Karrin Murphy appears. She hasn't contacted Harry in over a month, possibly due to public criticism of her working with him. Murphy brusquely informs Harry there's been a murder connected to the supernatural and insists on his help. Though frustrated by Murphy's attitude, Harry agrees to assist. The chapter establishes Harry's strained relationship with both Kim and Murphy, his financial troubles, and hints at a dangerous magical threat, setting the stage for the murder investigation and escalating supernatural conflict to come. In Chapter 2, Murphy brings Dresden to a brutal crime scene outside Chicago, a half-built nightclub connected to mob boss Johnny Marconi. The victim, one of Marconi's bodyguards, has been savagely mutilated, likely by a supernatural creature. Dresden finds a large paw print and bloodied glass near a broken window, deducing the killer may be a werewolf. Murphy confirms there have been similar murders over the past month, each during the full moon. Their investigation is interrupted by FBI agent Denton and his team, who aggressively take control of the scene. An altercation erupts when Agent Ben attacks Murphy, drawing a gun and firing. Murphy diffuses the situation by calling it an accident. Dresden senses Denton is hiding something critical. As they leave, an FBI agent mentions the Lobo killings, hinting at a larger ongoing case. Dresden realizes he's facing a dangerous supernatural killer and possibly deeper corruption within law enforcement. In Chapter 3, Dresden and Murphy leave the crime scene shaken. Murphy apologizes for dragging Dresden into the case and admits she lost control with the FBI. Dresden tries to mend their strained relationship, reminding her they've been friends. Murphy accuses him of betraying her trust during the events last spring by withholding vital information. Dresden explains he only did it to protect her from dangerous knowledge, but Murphy asserts she doesn't need his protection. She needs honesty. Dresden reflects on Murphy's role as head of special investigations, fighting supernatural threats with limited knowledge. After tense words, Dresden finally promises Murphy complete transparency on this case. Murphy agrees to bring him in, warning that if they fail to stop this werewolf, there will be more murders, and serious consequences for both of them. They drive off together with a fragile truce, united against the looming threat. In Chapter 4, Murphy explains she didn't call Dresden in on last month's murders because Internal Affairs suspected her of working with Marconi after the Victor Sells case. She had to keep quiet under scrutiny. Murphy tells Dresden about the Lobo killings, a series of brutal murders coinciding with the full moon, involving multiple victims shredded to pieces. FBI forensic analysis dismissed werewolves, blaming a cult or psychos. Murphy believes there may be multiple killers or even a pack of werewolves. If she doesn't solve the case, her career and Dresden's freedom are at risk. After Murphy leaves, Dresden notices a woman possibly tailing him. Reflecting on Murphy's trouble and the brutal deaths, Dresden feels responsible and resolves to help stop the killings. Using a bloodstained shard of glass from the scene, he decides to cast a tracking spell that night, knowing Murphy will be furious. But stopping the killer matters more. In Chapter 5, Dresden uses a tracking spell on the blood-stained glass to locate the killer. The compass guides him to a rundown part of Chicago near Washington Park where previous murders occurred. He follows the trail into an abandoned department store and overhears a heated argument among a group of young people calling themselves the Alphas, led by Billy and Georgia. They argue about whether to hunt or lay low, revealing they're involved in werewolf activity. The woman Dresden spotted following him earlier arrives, clearly their leader, and chastises them. Dresden confirms through his spell that she's the killer he's tracking. She senses Dresden's presence and orders the group to flee in darkness. Dresden follows, but is attacked by something large and fast. Using his pentacle for light, he stumbles through the dark until reaching the alley, only to be tackled from behind. A woman presses a gun to his head, threatening to kill him. In Chapter 6, Dresden is ambushed outside the abandoned store by Murphy. Mistaking him for a suspect, she cuffs him but releases him once she realizes who he is. Murphy had followed the suspicious car from McAnally's, tracing it to the store. Inside, Dresden recounts what happened with the group of young werewolves and their leader, the dark-haired woman. Murphy wants to issue an APB, believing the woman is tied